In a world full of misery, rage, and insomnia, there's a place you can go to just unwind. All you have to do is take a long walk into the mountains, and just past the black house, the secret garden, you'll find a small cabin. Inside that cabin, you'll find the Hole in the Wall Book Club. So now that the dream catcher's hung and the fire started, we invite you to pull up a chair and join the Losers Club as we explore the world of officious little pricks and shining on. Hello and welcome to Hole in the Wall Book Club, the podcast where we talk about the books of one Stevie King's.
That's his name.
I'm Icy, and this is my greatest confidant in this entire world who is looking for a job as a winter caretaker.
Mark. Again, we really need to come up with a cooler name for me.
Yeah.
It's almost sad at this point.
It truly is.
Yeah.
How you been, Mark? How you been?
I've been doing all right, man. We have a hell of a section to talk about here.
That's why I thought we were just talking off recording about how we need to be kind of conscious of time. So I thought I'd start off with some casual small talk.
Yeah, right. We're like, hey, we only have like 120 pages of this. And there's more chapters than we've ever gone through in a section, but yeah, just screw it. Let's just do small talk first.
Yeah.
All right,
so
let's
these bunions on my toes.
Okay, oh wow, we're really getting into it. Let's talk about 401k and investing. Anyway, so chapter 47. I mean, again, we got to get right into it here.
Yep.
So chapter 47, titled Danny. I don't really think that's the location. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, we changed tone in this last bit. It's all about people now.
Which is weird.
Maybe at this point he's finally trusted us. He's like, okay, I think they figured out the Overlook.
Or maybe he's like, after 200 some pages, maybe they've remembered the only 4 characters in the entire book.
Oh, that's fair.
I don't know.
But Danny's a fairly quick chapter.
Yep.
And it's basically Danny and his mom in their room, hearing Jack hollering, and it ends with the Overlook waking up. The elevator turns back on, and they start hearing all the party noise.
Right. And again, I just want to point out here, there's not a whole lot to talk about, but the tension is extremely there. I mean, when we say Jack's hollering, I mean it's nothing but like slurs, and I mean you can just feel his rage being locked in this pantry. Like I couldn't imagine sitting there as a kid hearing that, for what it seemed like hours. Really.
Right. And I do want to say, like, this entire end of the book is really, really good and has a lot of just outright, these are terrifying, great tension sections that are that were a lot more fun to read than talk about. So there's going to be a lot of like glazing over the exact details here. But frankly, all of the horror sections in this were written really, really well.
Yeah, right. This is where when I was reading it, like I had this constant feeling of like unease.
Yep.
Because of everything that was going on. But there's not a whole lot to really dig into here. But a good amount. All right, so the next chapter is chapter 48, Jack. And it's funny, I actually wrote in my notes here because I was so used to locations. Beside Jack, I wrote pantry. I feel like I actually did that subconsciously. I was, again, so used to it.
I don't write this down. I'm not going to know where the fuck this happened.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I've been conditioned.
But yeah, Jack. Oh, this is our typical Jack chapter. It's Jack doing something and then thinking about his past and then getting real angry. Like, it starts out with Jack in the cupboard, and he's just, like, munching on Triscuits, which, by the way, I didn't realize Triscuits were that old.
Yeah, me neither. They're great, by the way. If you don't know, go out. I don't know how Big Putt feels about that, me propping up Triscuits, but they're pretty damn good.
I did stop eating Triscuits for, like, 2 years, though. Because one time I was eating some Triscuits because I was sick and I had nothing but Triscuits. And I don't know if you've thrown up an
Oof.
entire stomach full of only Triscuits. It's the worst, and it put me off Triscuits for a full-on 2 years. But I'm back on the Triscuit boat. Unless Big Putt Putt wants us to clean up the image, I'm back on Triscuits.
Right.
But he starts thinking about his dad, and unlike other times he's thinking about his dad, he approaches it from a very different angle. It's the angle of, I never did ask what my mom did to drive my dad to drink. I mean, it's clearly her fault. And wow, this was wild.
Yeah, it's this is essentially the evolution of his character, because now he is fully realizing this dark fantasy of his, that truly nothing is his fault.
Right.
Like, everything is happening because basically he was conditioned to marry a terrible woman, so he did.
Just like his dad did.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
And I don't even know if they say that in this chapter, but he does actually make that a point. And I think it was here, but
Yeah, this is when he has the memories of his dad, and he thinks about that whole, like, at least my mom just stood back and let him turn into nothing. Wendy and Danny are actively stepping in my way and trying to keep me, like, they've sabotaged every career I've had, and now they want to sabotage my last chance. It's wild.
Yeah, right. He makes that argument where, like, I've done even worse, because not only do I have a bad wife, but, like, how dare she step out of line as well? Like,
Yep.
again, this is a part of the book that is, really hard to read. Just seeing someone who's that far gone, pretty much
Oh,
at
yeah.
this point. So
And then there's a voice at the pantry door. Good old Grady, our best buddy Grady. And Jack and him talk, and basically Grady's like, "Okay, man, I'll let you out as long as you kill your wife and kids. Come on, just do it this time."
yeah, I mean, and Grady really laid it on, didn't he? I mean, it
Yep.
wasn't like he was like, "Hey, man, like, wow, you let your tiny wife and 5-year-old lock you in the pantry." And I think they even said it at one point in the book, like, maybe we're talking to the wrong Torrance.
Right.
Like, maybe we should have just talked to your wife, basically, because, like, doesn't really seem like you have it in you. And obviously, this is something that Jack can't take, right? This, like, sharp criticism of his ability to get things done,
Right.
right? And Jack does not really hesitate. Yeah, like you said, Grady's like, "Yeah, man, I'll consider letting you out." And there's no beating around the bush here. This time he's like, "You got to finish it, man."
Yep. You got to kill your kid. You got to kill your wife. And Jack's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm game. Just open the fucking door."
Well, I don't think he says Danny, though. I think he specifically says Wendy. And I don't know if that's important, and I could be wrong as well.
I'm not
But
sure, but yeah, we haven't seen Jack since the boiler. Like, since the moment when he decided not to let the boiler blow up, we haven't really seen Jack. The hotel has been fully grasping him from that point on.
right,
We see him
exactly.
again, like, right near the end, but through most of this, like, the hotel just has its grips in him completely at this point.
Yep. And so he accepts. He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna kill her." And when you're reading this, or at least I did, like, I had full confidence that he meant every word of it. Like,
Oh yeah,
there's no hesitation in him at all.
and the
So,
latch slides open.
yep.
Jack steps out, and there's no one there. The
There's
party's gone. All the noises are gone. Grady's gone.
But everyone is gone, and yeah. Meanwhile, like, yeah, there was, like, the party going on again, and all the stuff's going on. It's completely silent, but he has a bit of a surprise, right? Waiting for him in the kitchen. It's sort of this I don't want to say picturesque, because it's a little morbid as well, but there's, like, a martini glass with a
Right.
fifth of
I
gin.
totally forgot about that.
Oh, it was just it was described so well in the book that I could literally just imagine this whole scene in my mind, where it's a martini glass, a fifth of gin, and a plastic dish filled with black olives, and then like leaning against it is the roque mallet.
The good old Roque mallet.
That's right, our favorite sport, not
Which
including
I have not yet
putt-putt.
verified that Stephen King didn't make up.
I almost looked it up, and I
Yeah,
forgot to.
I kind of don't want to know. Like, I want to live in this weird little world where Stephen
Mhm.
King might have made up Roque. Yeah, we jump from that to 49. Halloran going up the country. We got a location.
And we got a name.
Yes,
So
so
this
it's a
is
merger here.
Stephen King's hooking me up here. I was kind of having that crisis of losing the location, but now he's giving me both.
This is a lot like our last few Halloran chapters. It starts out with Halloran being like, wow, this trip sucks. In every way, this trip sucks. He almost gets run off the road by a plow. And then I think he gets
The
hit
weather
does he get
here
hit with
is
a mind
extreme.
blast? Yeah, does he get hit with the mind blast, then drive off the road? Or is that two separate things?
I think I don't remember. I mean this whole chapter is a slog, but it's meant to be. Like you're
Right.
meant to feel how sort of slow and sort of arduous this trip is.
And
Like
also just outright dangerous. Like it's slow, arduous, and straight up terrifying the whole time.
right, and everyone tells him. So we're given this scene where he's driving in extreme snow. He's not an experienced snow driver at all. Neither am I. And he's pretty much on the edge of a mountain. If he messes up, he's driving off of a cliff.
Yeah. And he almost does. Like he
Right.
kind of after he like almost gets hit by this tow truck, I think he like takes the turn a bit too sharp, slides, and almost goes off a cliff. And
Yep.
the tow truck driver stops and helps him. There's this conversation where okay, just fast tracking through this. By the end of it, he like tells the guy, I gotta get to the overlook. There's someone there who needs help. And the guy helps him, and he finds out the guy also has the shine, like a little bit of the shine.
Yeah.
And he gives him his glove. The tow truck driver gives Halloran his gloves, and he says, "Hey, when you get into town, go to this dude. Tell him I sent you. He'll rent you a snowmobile. Show him my gloves. Mail them back to me."
Right. And I think we touched on this previously, but I think these chapters serve two purposes. The first purpose is the obvious one that's just logistically telling you what Holleran's doing. Because as a
Right.
reader, you're like, where's he at? Like, they need help right now.
Yep.
But the second one is this weird sort of tension thing that Stephen King is doing, where he's giving you this really intense, violent tension in the hotel that has sort of roots in the paranormal. Then he's quickly shifting over to this regular tension that we can all relate to, which is this guy is urgent thing, well, trying to save someone's life that maybe we can't relate to, but he's trying to make it through a storm. There's nothing sort of paranormal about it. This is so it's still tension, but it's just a different type of tension. In a way, it gave my sort of my mind a break, but stressed me in a different way. If
Right.
that makes sense.
Until we get to right near the end of this chapter, when those tensions collide, which is when
Right.
Halloran first gets hit with a blast, kind of like the blast from Danny, but from the Overlook. And it says a lot of things that I won't repeat. They're very racially charged and violent as fuck.
Yeah,
And it
right.
almost knocks him off the road. Like he loses control. I think he hits a snow embankment.
Yeah, he gets lucky pretty much.
Yeah. And he realizes he's lucky and he throws up his like mental shields. He's hiding with his shining. And there's a moment where he's like, yeah, if this had happened when I was near the edge of a cliff, I'd be dead. Like,
Yep.
And it still could happen. Like, and there's this moment at the end of this chapter. He's like, yep, this house can blast me in the brain anytime. Let's hope it doesn't pick the wrong moment.
Yeah, and then like you said, and then he's like, well, I guess I'll put up. I mean, he doesn't say it like this, obviously, but he's like, well, I guess I'll put up my shield now. And it doesn't really get into the particulars of that a whole lot, but I was like, oh, okay, you can just do that. I didn't know that was a thing.
But I mean, he does point out that he doesn't even know if it's going to work. He's
Oh yeah,
not.
that is right. And I'm guessing like he would not want to have it up anyway because he's still hoping that Danny's going to reach out to him as well,
Yeah.
right? But at this point, he's like, I don't have a choice. So
And this has been happening for a while. Like I'm looking back, I've trying to like not look at this as a discrete chunk of this episode because in last episode we were very much getting this rising violent tension in the house intercut with Halloran's trip, and this just continues to be most of the end here.
right, and again, like I said, I actually think it's really good because of that sort of tension shift. Because at
Right.
some point, you sort of need a release, and by the end of these chapters, that's when I'm like, okay, we need to get back into the house because I need to see what's going on. Like
Yeah.
I want to see if Danny and Wendy are still okay. You know, even though like a lot of times these chapters are actually happening like simultaneous to the previous chapter, like on the
Yeah, most
timeline.
of the time when we start a Halloran chapter, we're given like a bit of a timestamp. It's like, and here's Halloran about the time that this thing happened in the chapter you
Mm-hmm.
just read. And the Halloran chapters, yeah, tend to be right before or about simultaneous with the chapter we just read before it.
And I give Stephen King a lot of credit for this because he doesn't technically have to do that to give you
Right.
that timestamp. And I know that some writers may not have to make the reader wonder, like, okay, exactly when is this happening? And maybe that can create some more tension because you're not really sure. But I really appreciate it here to
Oh,
say
yeah.
this is exactly what's happening to Halloran, and this is exactly what would be happening in the hotel while he's doing.
Yup. But unless you have anything else in that chapter, we go into, I think, our weirdest named chapter of this entire book, so far at least. Chapter 50, Red Rum. It's not a place. It's not a person. What the fuck's this?
It's a particular type of rum,
Hmm.
of course.
Ah, okay.
So for me, just getting into this chapter, even before we get to the contents of it, we've talked about red rum, or maybe, I don't know if we've talked about it, but this is a concept that's been brought up in the book so many times. And again, because I know The Shining, the story of it, I know that red rum is backwards for murder. So when I get to this chapter and I read that, okay, this is a chapter called Red Rum, I'm like, okay, this is where we're getting into it.
Shit's going down. Someone's getting roped.
Yeah. Right. All right. So
And
how
who
does
is going to get roped here, Mark? Who's going to get roped?
it's so tough because again, us being just avid Roke fans,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to separate the horror of this book with the great sport of Roke. You know.
I understand. Like, what were you, world champion 12 years running? I can't.
Right.
We're gonna get like sued by the real Rogue world champion.
I know, dude. They're gonna be super pissed.
I
They're
don't
like,
even
come
know
on,
if it's a
guys.
team game or whatever. Okay. But yeah, we cut in on Wendy.
We're gonna get Roked by somebody. So,
Oh.
anyways,
Okay. We cut in on Wendy, and Wendy is in the bedroom. Danny's asleep, and she's been listening to the party noises at the house, and then it cuts silent. And we get this bit where she's like, that should make me feel better. It makes me feel so, so much worse. And she starts thinking through, and, this whole section felt a bit like that whole Mother's Shining thing. I don't know. It was either her trying to convince herself, or it felt a little bit like Tony talking to Danny,
Mhm.
just with her on both sides of that conversation. Because she thinks that she heard Jack talking in the kitchen, because the noise carries up through the dumbwaiter.
Right,
And she thinks she heard him talking about murdering his family. And then she thinks she heard a bolt retract right before everything went silent.
right. Which we know is true.
Yep. And then she's also trying to convince herself it's the wind, but no, she knows it isn't. So she eventually gets the knife and she starts heading down to the basement. There's this bit where she tries to decide whether or not to lock Danny in the room, but doesn't want him to be stuck in there in case of fire. And this is the first moment I realized that the doors don't unlock from the inside without the key.
Yeah, that's I wasn't really, that was strange to me as well. She's like, well, I don't want to lock it because then he'll be trapped in here.
Yeah, it was
It's just an odd little thing.
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Wendy's going down to the lobby, and she's got to do her little freak out thing. Okay, I'm talking very flippantly, but this section is actually just drenched in suspense and terror. Like, this part was tough to read for me. Like, my heart was pounding this whole way down.
Right, and again, so just to paint this, the last thing that everything's going on, right? She hears the party going on, then she thinks she hears Jack talking, doesn't make any sense. The last thing that she hears is Jack talking about murdering them, and then everything falls silent.
Yep.
Like, the last noticeable sound really is this thought that maybe she heard the pantry door open.
Right.
Or get unlocked, rather.
And
so yeah, this whole thing is just like, it is tough to read. It's very hard.
And then there's a big chime, and she freaks out a little bit until she realizes, okay, no, it's fine. It's just the clock. I'm just going to stand perfectly still till the clock finishes chiming 8. I don't know why, but I feel like I have to. Why is it chiming 9? Why is it chiming 10? Why is it chiming 11? Oh, shit. And then she has this moment of recognition of things aren't good, turns to go to run to the stairs, and then there's this brief chime of midnight, unmask. I think like the party sound swells up for just a moment, and then it goes silent. And then Jack's there running at her full speed with a rope mallet.
Yeah. And then again with murderous intent. This is essentially the first all-out fight scene.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he hits her with full force with the rope. I think several times.
Oh yeah, by the end of this, like, she's got some broken ribs, her back's fucked up.
Oh yeah.
She does get a good hit on him. And by that, I mean, she stabs the knife into his spine, like straight into his back to the hilt.
Yep.
And he gets up.
He gets up. And again, like, and I mean, I could be wrong about this, but when I get this picture, this isn't like just a small steak knife. This is like a large, like chef's knife or something.
Oh yeah. When she grabbed it, she said she took the biggest and sharpest one she could find.
Right. So this is a very large object, and again, buried all the way to the hilt. And yeah, he just gets back up.
And I think at this point, he's just dead. Like, I think he is purely just a soul, like a soul in a body animated by the Overlook. Like, he looks at her and he says, "You killed me."
Right. He even recognizes it at this point too. I think it's a weird thing because he literally says that. He says, "You killed me." Actually, technically, he says, "You bitch, you killed me." But
right, yeah.
And I think that, to me as a reader, I'm like, oh shit. Like, so they have no defense of it.
Yep.
Like, none at all. And that's like the very end of that chapter, I believe. They have this huge fight scene.
They're both just on the steps, slowly crawling upwards because they're both just beaten to hell. And yeah, it's brutal. And then we jump back to Halloran.
Chapter 51, Halloran arrives. So we're about to merge some stuff here. So he got a snowmobile. This is all sort of part of the plan. He was told to talk to someone in Sidewinder to get a snowmobile. He sort of mentioned the guy's name. There's really not a whole lot to talk about here. And so he starts his trip. This is like the last leg, right? From Sidewinder to Overlook on a snowmobile.
Yep.
And he's pretty damn close until he sort of comes across
an old friend.
Yeah, right. An old friend.
Old Hedgie the lion.
Right. The lion hedge animal.
Oh my god, a hedge animal putt-putt course? Big putt-putt? Come on.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, yeah, this lion, we've seen it physically hurt Danny before. It scratched his leg.
Yep.
It beats the shit out of Halloran. I mean, knocks him off the snowmobile, like slices him across the chest with a big old slash.
Yeah, you really get the feeling here that like he's not going to make it out of this.
Oh, yeah. It's brutal.
And then I don't know if you want to sort of jump to the end here because I mean it's a long fight scene, but basically at the end, Halloran has an extra gas tank that he brings along on the snowmobile, and essentially he just douses it in gas, and then I can't remember if he had like it was a lighter. That's right.
A Zippo lighter.
Yep.
We get the brief history of the things this lighter has been through before he's like, and if you fail now, I'm dead.
Yeah, right. Stuff like it has significance.
Mm-hmm.
Which again is interesting, right? Like it could have just been
Stephen King does frequently that I actually really like, in that he'll interject a little bit of history just when it's needed. Like we got this a couple chapters back when like Tonic tossing the ball from hand to hand, and he was like singing that song to himself. We got this little flashback of like Danny like falling in love with this song on his dad's old records to explain why he's singing this song. And
right.
I enjoy that.
No, me too. I absolutely love it.
When he's getting back on the snowmobile and he's like, but where are the other animals?
Which I was a little surprised at too. Like, I felt like that was a very legitimate concern.
The lion and the dogs have like always been hunting together. Like the rabbit hasn't hurt anyone. The rabbit just likes to watch. It's just creepy. But yeah.
Right, but then you have like the dog too. But yeah, it's weird. So yeah, he has the very legitimate fear, at least I think, that okay, well I defeated the lion.
Like he sets himself on fire a little bit during this.
Oh yeah, like luckily he's in snow because like his whole arm catches on fire and everything like that because like the gasoline's going everywhere. Because again, he's being attacked by a lion. It's a hedge animal, but it's paranormal, so
it's a rough one. But we jump back in to Wendy and Jack, and they have made it up 52. A little bit further. Mm-hmm. They're in the hallway at the top of the stairs, and this fight scene continues. Jack, like, I think hits it with the Roqued mallet again, and then he falls as well because like he's got a knife buried to the hilt in his back, and like they're both crawling along the ground, and this is when Wendy notices the door to the bedroom's open. She didn't lock it, but she left it closed. Basically, Wendy makes it in and barely gets the door locked before Jax gets through the door.
Yeah, again, he has a Roqued mallet, so he's like basically pounding through the door. She then runs. At this point, she can't find Danny, but she's trapped. There's nothing that she can do. So she basically runs into the only other room that she can, which is the bathroom, and then locks that door as well.
And then, God, yeah, this part made me cringe. Oh,
right. This is tough because I mean, again, she's being attacked by a guy who's much stronger than her. At this point, she's out of options. She has nowhere to run. She can't kill him. He has a mallet, and she essentially at this point has nothing. She had the knife, which is now buried in his back. Still, at least I think it is.
Oh yeah, oh it's still there.
And so she locks herself in the bathroom. Like there's nothing else she can do. He, I think, slams a hole through the bathroom door, and while he's like trying, she ends up finding like a razor. This is like the only thing that she can find, like the whole bath. Like she looks everywhere. She's like, oh damn, like what am I gonna do? And he's like smashing in, and he tries to unlock it, and she's like slashing at his like hand with this razor, also cutting herself. But again, she's out of options. Like she's doing whatever she can do to absolutely save her life. And as she is slashing at at Jack's hands with this razor, she hears, they both hear the sound of an incoming like engine, which we know is Halloran.
And so does Jack at this point. Wendy thinks it's like maybe it's Halloran, maybe it's a park ranger. And Jack's like, oh, no, the hotel told me it's Halloran. I got to go kill this dude. And the banging at the door stops. Jack leaves to go deal with Halloran because, he's decided Halloran is a bigger threat. And I got to say, when we get into the next chapter, he fucking deals with Halloran.
Yeah, he really
does. So Halloran gets there and walks in the Overlook. And this is Halloran.
53, Halloran laid low.
Yep. And Halloran walks in the Overlook and he's like, he sees all the blood. He's calling out for Danny and he's like, shit, am I too late? And then Jack slaps him or hits him across the face with that rope mallet. Just busts open his teeth. I just really just messes up Halloran's face and leaves him for dead.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty explicit here. I think like it even said like he broke his jaw and like all this stuff. And yeah, you really do get the feeling that because I think he hit him more than once too.
Hey, I'm not positive.
Maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember, but you get the feeling like you hope that Halloran makes it, but it's even more severe than Wendy. So you get the feeling like he might be dead.
Oh yeah. Because I'm not even sure about Wendy at this point. She's rough.
Oh right. Yeah, they're both in like at this point, if you told me like, hey, everybody dies at the end, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So and then yeah, I mean this again, it's just another chapter with another sort of fight scene. And then once Jack sort of deals with Halloran, I thought that his next thought was going to be, okay, I'm going to go finish off Wendy, but it's not.
Nope.
His thought is, okay, now I'm going to go after Danny.
Yep. And in our next chapter, we check in on Danny. With our chapter, 54? Tony.
Very special chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Because we talked about this since I think the beginning of the book, and finally this chapter says it.
Explicitly. It just straight up comes out and says it.
It's really strange. It is so explicit. It's like Stephen King wanted me to know, because apparently he knew that in 30, 40 years I was going to talk about this, however long this book has been out. And he explicitly says that Tony is a part of Danny.
Yep. Danny's deep in his dream in the Tony world, and it looks like the Overlook. And Tony comes towards him for the first time. And it's basically like, yo, Danny, I'm a part of you. And your parents are about to die, so maybe fix that.
Yeah.
You know, do the thing. Fix this whole situation, please. And I believe like one of the things that stood out here to me was I think Tony tells him that he has to remember what his dad forgot.
Right. Now, it's extremely vague in the book, and I don't know if it's just because I already knew the story, but like when I read that, I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're talking about the boiler.
Yeah, okay. I've always been curious how different this book would be outside the cultural consciousness context for The Shining. You know,
yeah, like if you were one of the first people that actually picked this book up and you had no sort of idea what was going to go on. So
right. Like how heavy-handed would this foreshadowing actually feel? But,
I mean, I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, like I know what this is, but I don't exactly know why I know. I mean, maybe it is meant to be obvious because there is some value in that as well.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. The whole Tony scene was really good, but I don't have much to say on it.
Yeah, so after that, I mean, the sort of dream sequence ends. Jack comes for Danny, and Danny's pretty much gets cornered on the third floor. All the doors are locked. He has nowhere else to go. He's like hiding where like the hallway sort of turns into it's like at the very end of the hall. So he's out of options. And this sort of goes right into the next chapter, which is 55, that which was forgotten. And this is when, Jack actually finds Danny. And yeah, meanwhile, Wendy actually finds Halloran as well.
And I'm going to start talking on the Wendy Halloran side of this. That isn't what happens first, but I'm just going to kind of get that out of the way.
Right.
Wendy's whole attitude changes a little bit here because Halloran's like, we have to find Danny. And Wendy's like, Jack's up there. Danny's either going to make it out of this or he's not. Let's wait here. I was like, what?
Yeah, right.
Like, I would give up at that point, but I didn't think Wendy would. And this might just be her accepting, like, if anyone's going to make this work, it's Danny. But it felt really weird. This is the only part of this section that really took me out of it. I was like,
I mean, to me, I just sort of imagined that he's almost dead, she's almost dead, and I almost sort of wondered, like, if she was even to the point where she's like, I don't even know if I can make it upstairs.
That might be it. But
Like,
like, I don't know. She's been so obsessive at all times, Danny first. And like, it just really took me. I thought she would try.
I wonder if it's one of those things where she knows that she's about to die. I firmly believe that that's what she believes. And I wonder if it's one of those things where she knows deep down inside it's a 5-year-old versus a full grown ass man. And she wants to die with the fantasy of thinking that maybe somehow Danny did it instead of going upstairs and finding her dead son.
You know what? I could see that. I could see this like it could be a moment of like, if Danny isn't gonna make it out of it, he's dead already. That might be more the concept.
Right. And again, I'm going off on a limb here. Because she's just given up. You're not really given a whole lot into her psyche, but she's beat all to hell, and you really do get the feeling like she really might not make it as well. Again, she has like broken ribs. She's been hit with a roque mallet by a very strong man several times.
She's gotten roped to hell.
Yeah, roped up. Yeah. So then we have that. And then we have, which I thought was a really cool interaction between. So Jack finds Danny, and Jack's intent is to kill Danny as well. And Danny attempts to sort of talk to Jack. Like, he knows that it's not his dad anymore, but he's trying to like bring his dad out.
Yeah, and he straight up calls out that it's not his dad. He keeps calling it was it false face?
Right. Like, and he's making that point like, hey, you're not fooling me. Like, I know this isn't my dad. You're not going to fool me into thinking that it is.
And the fact that he calls out like you aren't my dad is what saves his life in the first few moments of this, because like Jack easily would have killed this kid, absolutely easily, but he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you're not my dad, you're wearing a false face. And the thing just kind of like stops in shock and like, whoa, hold up, why do you know this?
Right. And there's a point too where I think he says something along the lines of, you know this isn't how it really works, and you know the hotel is lying to you.
Right.
And we have this really sort of awesome moment. It's just like 2 lines of the book, and it really changed my entire view of this entire ending, where just for a moment, because Danny is saying things that are sort of reaching deep down to sort of Jack's soul, I guess, we actually see Jack come back just for a second.
Yep.
And Jack says, hey, Doc, I love you so much, and I'm sorry, but you gotta run. Like, you gotta go. And this, to me, this was such a powerful moment, because we always knew that it was sort of the hotel that was, getting into Jack and things like that. But this was the ultimate sign that, like, no, like, deep down inside, Jack loves his kid, and he literally just lost the struggle against this great paranormal paranormal hotel. Like, it's not, as opposed to, Jack just sort of losing it. He's not
Right.
losing it. He's still himself on the inside. He's just been overpowered.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, and when Danny won't run, I mean, his final action as Jack is to take the roque ballot and roque himself in the face until he doesn't look like himself. Like,
Yeah.
and it was like this freeing moment for Danny of like, I don't even look like your dad anymore. Now you can run. You can move on. So he bashes himself with the roque mallet and then becomes this like misshapen, bloody face thing, and the hotel snaps back in.
Yep.
And the hotel has this moment where the manager, I guess, is what I'm gonna call Jack from this point on, has this moment where he's like, you can run, Danny. Like, we can take us. We have the rest of eternity to play these games. And then it finally clicks in Danny's mind that that which was forgotten. He's like, "Ha, nah, the boiler, you
Yeah.
dead bitch." And the manager / Jack freaks. He's like, "Oh shit, you're right," and runs to the boiler room. Just leaves Danny like, "Oh, I have to fix this," and just books it.
That's right. And that sort of gets us right into the next chapter, 56, the explosion.
I wonder where this takes place.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Probably outside. They probably after the boiler thing, they probably do like a like a cookout or something. All right, so we get this scene, and again, this is just like a pure action scene, basically. Jack / the manager, hotel, whatever. He gets to the boiler, he releases the steam. He has this moment of temporary triumph.
Straight up like, aha, I fucking won. It wasn't too late.
Right. And then it was, and it literally explodes like right in his face.
Yup. We also get like Danny meeting up with Halloran and Wendy and shining into Halloran's head. All the explosion stuff, like, we gotta go. And then they head out.
Yeah, and Halloran is actually able to carry them out.
Right.
Basically. Which is amazing, because you really don't think that Halloran's gonna make it.
Halloran's a badass. Like, there's a moment in there when he was like thinking of all the injury and he's like, damn it, so much money in dental work gone.
I know. It was like, well,
badass.
$2,000 worth of dental work gone in 5 minutes, so whatever.
But there is a moment where Halloran's like, crap. What about those other hedges? Well, let's do our best.
Right, what else can you do, right? And this sort of brings us again right into chapter 57, which is exit. And this is a really interesting sort of chapter. Now mind you, this is the last chapter of the book, not counting the epilogue. So this is sort of the last sort of scene that we get in the Overlook Hotel, like the main section. And so Halloran had to go to the equipment shed for something. I actually don't remember what he had to go there for.
It's basically Danny runs down with shoes and gloves. And basically Halloran looks at this situation as like, no, they're going to freeze to death. We're going to go to the equipment shed, see if there's any blankets or coats or things to keep them warm. Then we're getting the fuck out of here.
Right. Yeah. So he goes into this equipment shed to get these like blankets and stuff like that. And the hotel tries to get into Halloran.
Yep. He sees the other roque mallets.
Yep.
He picks one up. He's like, man, that's a mighty fine roque mallet. I bet this roque mallet would be good for killing children.
And I think he even mentions, like, I'm only here because of these people. Like, the hotel immediately starts working in on Halloran exactly the same way that they worked in on Jack.
Oh, yeah. And there's this bit where Halloran thinks to himself, like, that little boy just let his dad die in the hotel. That's just patricide. I should punish him. Wait, that's the dude who busted my face.
Yeah, right. But he gets like, and he's like in there for a while, like to the point where they're like hollering at him, like, "Hey, like, what are you doing in there?"
Why?
And he's like approaching the door with the roque. So, and I guess like just at the right moment, he's able to sort of come back to his senses here.
Yep. Nothing much really happens. Like in Jack's case, it was often he'd see Danny and be okay. But in Halloran's case, it was just kind of like, wait a second, you're not going to fool me, Overlook.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, the Overlook Hotel hasn't had the entire off season to dig into him.
Right.
There's also the fact that he does have the Shining. And you also, I mean, the hotel's dying too. So there's a lot going on here on why that.
Oh, yeah. It definitely felt like one last ditch bid. And just kind of one last like emotional jump scare for us, the reader.
Right, because I honestly, like, at this point, it's like the last chapter, and I'm like, this isn't gonna happen, is it?
Right.
So, but anyway, Wendy is at this point, she's barely alive. She's holding on by a thread. You get the sort of feeling that so is Halloran. But they make it away. They get away on their snowmobile, and they actually find other people on the way.
Yeah, I think the people from Sidewinder who rented him the snowmobile were like,
And it, like, one of them was the doctor
maybe we
and
should
all
have.
this stuff.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I thought that was a really weird thing. Because, like, no one, like, when he rented his snowmobile, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, like, sometimes I know, like, you guys just know things or whatever." Mind you, he's only been gone for like that day.
I'm wondering if they heard the boiler. Like, if they heard
Yeah,
this explosion. Because, like,
maybe.
an explosion that big,
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think it's stated that that's why, but that's kind of the vibe I got. They, like, you know, the one dude believed him that there was trouble brewing, like, because when Halloran, like, got the snowmobile, there was this bit where the dude gave him his coat. It was like, just bring it back. Like, your coat's not going to do it. That overlook is no good, and I believe you. And Halloran's like, he's helping me out, and he believes me, but I don't see him on that other snowmobile coming with me.
Yeah, that is one point that we sort of forgot to mention is he does make that a huge point. Like, hey, I'm glad this guy believes me, but there was also 2 snowmobiles, and I took one, and the other guy went home.
Yup.
So,
But yeah, so
yeah, and they get found basically, and the doctor's there. And at this point, I still didn't know if Halloran was going to make it.
I didn't either. Like, so movie spoiler here. And I don't remember the movie, but I know from other people telling me enough times that Halloran dies in it. And I had it fully in my head that he dies in this. And I was like, when's he gonna die? Like, what's happening?
Well, and I don't want to talk about the movie at all because I did just watch the movie after I finished the book, and we're going to talk about the movie a little bit next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it before then. We'll have some chattings.
But yeah, there was a ton of foreshadowing, right? I mean, it was meant to be obvious, right? Like, the Shine told him to take out his will before he left, right? So you're like, okay, like, he's not coming back. But then yeah, so we get to chapter 58, the actual last chapter, which is it's called epilogue, / summer. So months have gone by, and they're away from the Overlook, obviously.
And we've got they're at a new place that Halloran works at. Wendy and Danny are visiting him for the summer. And honestly, it's just nice. Like, all of them they don't seem happy, but they seem not traumatized, and it's nice. Like, Danny's fishing, Halloran and him have a conversation, and I don't know. I don't have a huge amount to say about this. It was just kind of like let's see these people not in terror for just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a warm chapter. It lets you know that Danny makes it out, but it also lets you know that Wendy and Halloran survive, which is really good to know. Wendy has like a smashed vertebrae or something, so she's actually like still recovering from her back.
Yep. She gets Al Shockley gives her a job in Maryland.
Yep. And another interesting, I mean, I think this is pretty obvious, but I do like the fact that Halloran at one point, he's having this internal dialogue, and he's kind of like, I remember seeing Wendy for the first time, and she was a girl.
Yep.
But when I look at her now, that's all gone. Like, she's a woman now. She's been through. And I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool sort of tidbit to add, which is basically like this has changed her. It's, because if you look at Wendy at the beginning of the book, she's not ready to take on the world by herself.
Right.
She's not ready to take care of Danny solo and to have a full-time job and pay all the bills.
I mean, that's almost specifically why she's still with Jack.
Right. Because it's either Jack or her mother. It can't be, she's not ready to do her own. It's either one of those two options. But so I thought that was interesting. They or Stephen King put that in this chapter to basically say like, no, they're going to be okay.
Yeah. No, I gotta say, I was really hoping that I could make fun of Stephen King at the end of this book, but this is a good ending. Legitimately, I can't find anything to complain about, and I'm so good at complaining.
Right.
This book was. I'm gonna hold off my final like rating on the book to our recap next time, but this epilogue, this last chapter was just satisfying.
Right, and it's one of those things too, where again, this epilogue didn't have to happen.
Right.
It could have actually ended at exit, and then you could have wondered, well, like I wonder if Halloran survived,
And the
and
thing is,
I
if it
wonder.
had ended there, and we were having this conversation, I still don't think I'd be pissed about the ending. I like that the epilogue's here, but if it ended at exit, if it hadn't given us this, I think it still would have been a really good ending.
I think you're right, but I think the thing that would have bugged me a lot is that there was so much foreshadowing that he was going to die. I feel
That's
like
fair.
we were owed to know whether it happened or not.
Yeah,
So
and it didn't. Which
yeah, thank you, Stephen King, for letting us know.
appreciate it, bro. If
Yeah.
you ever in town, I'll get you a JoJo Sunday at Patterson's. Yeah, come on, man. I'm trying to get Stephen King to come to a local drugstore with me. That's actually the whole point of this.
Well, I mean, I think at some point, I mean, Stephen King has to just pop in. I mean, you know, we're sort of a big deal, a big time Stephen King podcast. So, I mean, how could he resist?
I
So,
know, and I think he might legally have to make a cameo at every drugstore,
yeah, right.
every old
Exactly.
soda jerk drugstore. Like,
Right.
I like to imagine that Stephen King is. That feels like a job. If he had not gotten into being a writer, I really think that would have been a good job for him. Like he has the right face for the guy, the old soda jerk, you know? uh,
He really does.
we're running kind of long, so any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I think we're gonna dig into it a lot. All of my final thoughts would be thoughts about the book as a whole. So I think we'll get into
There's
that
always
next
a
week.
weird end on this specific, the last episode of reading before the wrap up is always a weird like. I can't talk about that yet. I can't talk about that yet.
Yeah,
So,
right. Yeah, that's where I'm at. So
I guess now I've been fuck. How do we end this podcast? Hibbity hoo! Now you know. Ta-da.
you've read the book.
Eh. Hole in the Wall Book Club is a part of the Icynewyear Productions Network and produced and edited by Anthony Sheets. The music in this episode is Supernatural Radio by Kevin MacLeod. There'll be a link to his license and website in the show notes. If you want to get a hold of us, tweet us at Icynewyear or send an email to icynewyear@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to tell a friend or leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Word of mouth and 5-star reviews really help us get out in front of more people and let us expand and do more things. More information on the show can be found on icynewyear.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.